No fresh signings in the past 24 hours, but we did get some news from the league. It's not crazy big news, but it's news. The trade deadline this year will be on August 3rd, Monday, August 3rd. A little bit later than usual because we have the weekend, AJ, and we do not want a trade deadline over the weekend. And I agree with that. That is one of the biggest days of the year for the FT network.
But what happened when it used to just fall on July 31st and it fell on a weekend? Did anybody care, or did we just not care then?
We didn't care then, and now we are smarter as a sport.
Got it. Are we though? We're smarter as human species, and we're smarter as baseball people? Or
slowly?
Maybe not. I retract my statement. We're smarter about some things, and we are definitely dumber about other things.
True.
As a sport.
True. Anyways, it's good. Listen, that means that I don't have to work an extra day in order to cover the trade deadline because I'll already be on. Unless that's a Friday, then I won't be on. So
no, it's Monday.
Oh, perfect.
Monday. So I don't think they would do a Friday. I think it's got to be a Monday through a Thursday, and that's how they always adjust it.
Oh, because August 3rd, 2nd, 1st, would be July. Yeah, okay. I get it. I'm down with that. You know what? I'm down with this. As long as they don't put a trade deadline in the offseason or a signing deadline in the offseason, I'm good with the moving trade deadline in the season.
I think message sent on that one. There will not be any movement on that front anytime soon, so you're safe. Let's charge.
Charging the mound.
Dylan Hernandez, friend of the show, works for the California Post, which is a new publication, and he did an exclusive sit-down with manager Dave Roberts. One of the notable sound bites. Doc said that Roki Sasaki will have to develop a third pitch to be an effective starting pitcher. And then the article talks about the 24-year-old starter turned closer turned back starter who will once again show up to camp as one of the team's great mysteries. AJ, what do you think about Roki Sasaki trying to figure out a third pitch at 24 years old? And the backup plan that he could be a very effective reliever if it doesn't work out.
It's only if only a show talked about this when they first signed him. Thinking, man, I wonder how he's gonna be. Since he only throws a fastball and a split, and when he throws his fastball and split, they're not strikes a lot. If only we knew of a show that had mentioned this, and now he needs a slider or a breaking ball. Strange. It's good though that he worked out as a closer because. Now that they have Edwin Diaz, they can't use him as a closer and Tanner Scott and everybody else at the back end of their bullpen. So we'll see what happens. But let's not forget, he was hurt most of last year and he was in AAA for most of the year until the end. So they have options, but this is maybe why teams – no, I'm just kidding. Every team wanted this guy, so it wasn't that. They just – I don't know. It's an interesting comment from Dave Roberts this close to spring training.
I think it's definitely a good reason for exactly what I said last year. This guy will spend some time in AAA. What are you going to spend time in AAA doing? Figuring out another pitch. It's okay that Roki Sasaki, who every team wanted, can learn things. You can learn things at 24 years old. Now, can he figure out how to throw a slider that isn't a below average spin, below average horizontal break like the ones he was throwing this year? Yeah, obviously. Does it need to be a elite slider? No. And this is one of the things that when you talk about analytics and you talk about game plans nowadays, how they build them, what is his best pitch? It's the split fork, not ghost fork, but the fork ball thing. It's ridiculous. It's essentially a knuckleball. It wasn't enough strikes for him to have consistent success in the big leagues. He throws 100 miles an hour, but then again, so does everybody else. So to me, the slider doesn't need to be this elite wipeout slider. It just needs to be something that goes off of this plane. It's all up and down for him. And if you take away the fact that hitters don't need to look east and west, it makes your job as a hitter so much better. You just have to stay back through the middle. If it goes east and west too, like a slider would or some type of sinker, which I don't think he would throw, it would add to his arsenal. But it's okay. This team has a lot of starters. If he goes to AAA and works this out and figures it out and builds his innings up to make him a starter, that can be depth for them.
I'll say it again. He's only 24, so he could develop that slider, or maybe even another
What's he
pitch.
making? Scott, what's he making this year?
Not much. I mean, the league minimum with the
League
signing
minimum.
bonus that he has, but league minimum in terms of
League
his
minimum.
MLB salary.
Yeah, exactly. So guess what? Guys go to AAA all the time that are making league minimum. Right, Kratzy? I know you did it. I know I did it when I was making league minimum. I went down to AAA and had to figure some things out, but it's not a knock on him. It's a learning process and figure out a slot. Listen, how many? I know, Kratzy, you play with some guys that couldn't figure out. Why do you think we have the kick change now? Because guys can't supinate or pronate or whatever they nate, right? So now we have all these different pitches to try to help guys figure it out. Maybe he doesn't, whatever this one is, whatever the breaking ball one is, that pronate, supinate, whatever that one is, right? And he goes down there and they figure out some special gyro ball that Daisuke used to throw. I don't know, but yes, he definitely needs a third pitch if he's going to be a starter.
I don't think it's as far. I don't think it's as far away as like, oh man, he just doesn't have a third pitch. He threw sliders last year.
No, he did.
But when you have a pitch and you're trying to get a guy through an outing, the best of catchers it's so tough to be like, hey, I'll start working that slider in. Anybody can do it in spring training. But when it comes time to like win games, you're like, what am I going to go with? Oh, he throws a knuckleball at 89 miles an hour. I'll throw that pitch. That splitter is a devastating pitch. I remember Joe Kerrigan was our pitching coach, and Vladimir Guerrero was coming up, and Steve Jackson was our pitcher, and he threw a splitter. He came out to the mound and he goes, I want you to throw 9 straight splitters. That's the only pitch I want you to throw. That is the best pitch that you can throw against him. Throw it the whole time. So there's sometimes when pitching coaches and catchers are like, well, this is the one. Okay, it didn't work. This is the one. This is the one. Before you know it, he's thrown 93 pitches and he's thrown 3 sliders the whole game. That's not how you develop it. You develop it by throwing it, mixing it in, working on it in your side sessions, all that stuff.
His splitter, by the way, does have the kind of movement where you could almost call it 2 pitches. I know you still need a third pitch, but I mean, it's special, right? Didn't
remember
one
last
veer
year,
right,
though,
one veer left?
Remember last year, though, when one of his early starts, might have been the first start he had, the one they had in Tokyo. Didn't he start the second game of the year? Did he start this Yamamoto and then Sasaki? Or
Yes.
I don't know. I thought
You're right.
Didn't he
You're
start okay. I did those games, but they were at 3 a.m, so I kind of forgot what happened. He threw a slider, remember? Because he wouldn't throw a fastball for a strike, and he was really struggling with the split, and everyone just said, we're not swinging at that split finger. So he actually threw some sliders. So that's where this is a little bit confusing to me, because he has the ability to throw a slider. Maybe they just don't think it's that good. I don't know. That's weird. That's the one thing, because I remember distinctly last year when his first start, he couldn't throw a fastball or a split for a strike. So the one pitch that Will Smith called was the slider, because that was the one pitch he could throw over the plate.
And analytically, yeah, they essentially, looking at the charts that I'm looking at, analytically, his slider is all blue. And when you see blue, it means it's bottom 25th percentile in the league as far as spin rate, velocity thrown, perceived velocity at the plate, horizontal break, all those things. But he has it. When you're going into a start, you're saying, okay, well, where does this guy's pitches match up against the other guy? Instead of saying, or you say, well, I'm just going to throw my strengths against this guy. And his strengths are that forkball that, yes, Scott, it does move in either direction. But to me, the starts I watched, and it wasn't a lot of starts, I might have watched half his starts, he wasn't able to control it like some Japanese pitchers are able to control, like the split, where they're able to, move it so maybe it cuts a little bit more, or it breaks to the left, or it breaks to the right. His is so deep, and it's more like a fork. It takes a lot of the spin off, and so he gets more action on it, but it's less controlled. He's not 100% sure which way it's going.
Here's some good news. The Dodgers don't need him right now.
Good problem.
Great
the
problem.
Dodgers But the Dodgers have ruined baseball, Scott. Stop it. They need everybody. They want all. You know what? Just because they're mad now, they're going to go out and sign Framber Valdez.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
The Dodgers are mad. And I forgot about. Yeah, they could definitely afford Zach Gallen right now.
Yeah, they can afford anything. Actually, you'll find out later in our show why it's easier for them to afford things than some others based on a little revenue sharing agreement. But I digress. This team has plenty of starting pitching help. You're heading into a season where arms should be healthy. I mean, we get guys that drop during spring training, but there's some depth there. They actually needed him in the bullpen last year. The problem for them was the bullpen. And he emerges as this out of nowhere closer for them and picked up valuable innings for the Dodgers in their playoff run during 2025. It looks like the bullpen is in better shape. Here's the starting rotation we're looking at right now. Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, Ohtani, Emmett Sheehan, and Roki's on there. There are others that can be on there in that sixth slot. And yes, this is going to be a six-man rotation when you have multiple pitchers from Japan who are used to that once a week deal. Ohtani is not going to pitch more than once a week. I imagine they're going to try and, I don't want to say take it easy on Yamamoto, but definitely manage his workload throughout the season. They worked him pretty damn good last October, and he's pitching full speed in the WBC. And then, of course, Roki Sasaki is going to be monitored if he does end up in the rotation. But AJ, when you look at the relief pitching, they should be in much better shape. Also, that's not even considering that they could get a bounce back. Tanner Scott might look like himself again. Oh, and then Edwin Diaz is locked down in the ninth inning now.
Yeah. I mean, he's been pretty good for the last few years for the old Metropolitans there in New York. So, yeah, they threw him in there. The year before, Tanner Scott was unbelievable. That's why they went out and got him. And Blake Trinan's still there, isn't he? Last time I checked. And also, what's the Kopech? No. Evan Phillips. Evan Phillips. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, but isn't he coming back too? The guy that the ball goes this way and then this way. I mean, they just have so much depth on this team, and if they're in trouble, they can always bounce. Evan Phillips is bouncing back from Tommy John, so he's not there. And Kopech's a free agent, so apologies. But they can always use Roki Sasaki in the bullpen. He proved he could do it if they need him to. So it's just another thing that the Dodgers have done where they've just added so much depth around them. They still have the lefties in Vesia, right? And some of the other lefties they have going along. So this team is fine pitching-wise. They're fine. Remember we went into last year, they have too many starters, and they needed every one of them to get through the World Series.
Yeah, Ben Kasparius is still pretty good out of the bullpen for them.
Gratterall, when does Gratterall come back?
Yeah.
When does Gratterall come back?
I don't know. I think he might be ready for the start of the season, but he's really struggled to stay on the field. So I don't know how much you can rely on him. Will Klein can pitch every day for innings and innings, right? He was their little hero in that marathon game.
Bonda, right?
Bonda. Mm-hmm. They have a number of guys that are also going to come back throughout the season from injury. So who is it? River Ryan, although I think they'll try to make him a starter. There are a number of names there. It is an embarrassment of riches for the Dodgers. And they are playing a game where they know that, I don't want to say you're going to make the playoffs, but it's about as much of a sure thing for any team as we've seen in a minute. So that is why we've talked about them from an over-under perspective. And it might not be the smoothest ride, but they'll make the playoffs. I do think when you look at the roster, it's incredible, but I don't automatically go, oh yeah, these guys are going to steamroll to 110 wins. I don't think anybody would be surprised if we're in July or August and like, hey, who's starting on Tuesday for the Dodgers? Who are they bringing up from the minor leagues? Because of the fact that there could be injuries that pop up. The World Series hangover wasn't real for them for the first time in a quarter century. But I think that had a lot to do with the fact that they almost had a different looking starting rotation from the year before. What was the carryover from the World Series 24 to 25 in terms of guys that were actually contributing in the World Series? Do you guys remember besides Yamamoto? Yeah.
Yamamoto? I don't know. I mean, who else? A lot of the hitters were the same.
Right, but I'm looking at arms. Snell wasn't there. Glasnow wasn't healthy. Ohtani wasn't pitching.
No.
Roki wasn't there.
Yamamoto.
Vesia didn't throw in the World
He
Series.
didn't pitch in the World Series. Remember, he had the personal thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But their rotation in 25 was completely different in the World Series.
That's why Dave Roberts solidified himself as the best manager in the game with those back-to-back. Not just because he won, but the fact that they won in two completely different ways. Saying, how's this team going to win with no starting pitching? Done. How's this team going to win with no bullpen? Done. Like, this year he's going to be like, that's why he wants to do the Olympics. He's like, it's the only thing I haven't won yet. I'm sure he's won. I'm sure he went and coached in winter ball somewhere at some point.
Gavin Stone is expected to be ready for spring training. That's a good arm. There's a lot to like if you're a Dodger fan, but we'll see. It'll be an interesting mystery. What does Roki Sasaki do from a development perspective? The only thing I feel like he and Dodger fans and the organization should feel comfortable with is that he is a major league caliber arm, and he has proven himself out of the bullpen at the very least. That's a pretty good floor. High leverage reliever is his floor. We expect him to be a top end rotation, solid contributor, but if not, this guy's going to be special for them. And like AJ said, he's making the league minimum. So it's a good little contributor to have on the roster. Another nice little contributor who's been there for a minute, Max Muncy, is joining us coming up. So we're going to talk to him in just a moment. I just want to throw this out there for everyone in the chat. Questions, ask them early on and at me so I can see it in red, and I can bring some of those questions to Max for our little Q&A session. He's good, so let's cue him up. He now gets a fancy intro. Max Muncy joining us on FT. Max, happy offseason to you. I know spring training's right around the corner. So how are things going? And did it feel like it went way too damn fast?
Yeah, it is. It's only felt like it's been a couple of weeks at most. It's been pretty hectic offseason for me. Like I said, it's felt like it's been about 2 weeks long.
Did you get a fresh cut? I mean, look like you got a fresh cut up top.
No, it's been a little bit.
Oh, it's looking nice. Look like you might have put some product up there.
No, it's early in the morning, getting ready to work out. So it's no product in there.
We just had Alex call in the other day, and I was like, Alex, like how many requests do you get? Because there's the Mookie, Freddy, Shohei, Yamamoto level, and then there's the guy who hit a big home run in Game 7 of the World Series level, and then there's Alex call, and he said he's been pretty busy. Did you say more or less yeses to doing appearances this year with the baby on the way and the fact that now it's your third World Series championship?
Mainly because, just how hectic the offseason has been. I've said no to a lot of things. There's still a couple of things I've said yes to, but it's just you're trying to get as much time with the family as possible. It's back-to-back years, especially with starting overseas the last 2 years where it's been a really long year. And so just trying to get as much family time as I can right now, knowing that, we're gearing up for another long haul. And, it's 8-9 months of baseball. So you try to get the family time when you can.
Where are you right now? You haven't reported to Arizona yet, have you?
No, I'm at Dodger Stadium right now.
Oh, you're bad. That's why it looks so fancy. When do you go to Arizona?
I'll be out there right when pitchers and catchers report. So what is that, like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away, something like that?
You're an early guy? You're an early guy. You're an overachiever, Max. It's good. You're an overachiever.
That's not true.
Well, no, I wouldn't call it overachiever. For me, it's more in the past, I'd always gotten out there right around the first day of February. To me, I always felt like that was a good time to get out there, start getting adjusted, making sure you're out on the field. Because in the offseason, you can do all the hitting and ground balls and everything you want, but until you're actually out there on the field, it's just it's not really the same thing. And so I always felt like getting out to Arizona, starting to get acclimated. And, I also felt like that puts you more in the proper mindset of I'm getting ready for the season. because like I said, when you're in the cages or, you're at home, you can train as hard as you want. You just don't ever feel like you're in the right mindset. And so for me, it's easier to get adjusted to it than try to just flip the switch on day one.
Does everybody go with you? Now you have 3 kids, your wife. Does everybody go with you?
They'll be out there eventually. They're not going to come out, when I go out, but yeah, once game starts and everything, they'll be out there, and they love Arizona just as much as I do. It's a great time of year to be out there. It's the weather's amazing, and it's just spring training is just it's a fun time for the families. You get to see everyone again, and they always got a bunch of stuff going on, and like I said, in Arizona, there's a ton of stuff to do for the kids.
Are you excited to meet your new? Oh, sorry, Kratz. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah, we're just looking at who the new signings for the Dodgers are. What do you got on the fact that they went out and got Kyle Tucker? The fact that they were like, oh yeah, Edwin Diaz, he's a decent closer. We'll just bump Roki out of the closer position. How is that received by your teammates? But also, how do you receive the negative backlash that everybody has brought about, all the evil empire and the Dodgers are ruining baseball and all that chatter?
Well, first off, it's exciting as a player. It's really exciting for us where you're adding 2 really big pieces, and it's not really like we needed anything, but adding 2 big pieces like that, it's very, very exciting. I think for us as an organization, you can't really worry about what is being, said on the outside. We just have to worry about ourselves. And that's how we've always gone about business. We just try to worry about what happens in the clubhouse, what happens on the field, and, let everyone else say what they want away from us. It shouldn't affect us. We just need to be out there focused on ourselves. And, that's how we've always gone about business. It's how we're going to continue to go about our business.
Max, but seriously, it's your fault, okay? It's the Dodgers' fault. Everyone's saying it's all the Dodgers' fault that there's going to be a work stoppage and a salary cap. Can you guys handle that pressure this year of not forget three-peating and trying to win another one? But it's all the Dodgers' fault that they spend money and they actually try because they make so much damn money because they spend money and try.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's our fault.
Everything else is the Dodgers' fault. Global warming, the ice, the snowmageddon we just had, it's all the Dodgers' fault. I mean, everything. It's like the Dodgers have ruined every sport now. So way to go, Max. I'm super proud of you that the Dodgers win every year and you guys ruined everything in the world. Way to go.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It's like I said, we just try to worry about ourselves, and the fallout happens after that. But no, I mean, the work stoppage thing that was going to happen, and we don't know if it's going to happen, but look, we're not adding any more fuel to that fire. If that happens, it was always going to happen, and it's not going to only happen just because of us. That's a totally different issue that, I don't really want to fully get into at this moment. There's gonna be plenty of time for that over the next year, but yeah, we just got to focus on ourselves.
All right, something you have to get into is a guy they were just showing a picture of right next to you, Kyle Tucker. Obviously, big league vets like him and like you don't have to sit down and be like, Kyle, this is how we do this. How do you guys as the Dodgers make him feel as comfortable as possible to hit the ground running on opening day?
That's where spring training is so important. It's for him to come in and start. As a new player, one of the hardest things to do is learn faces. You're talking about clubhouse attendants, training staff, strength staff, coaches, all the, front office guys that help us out, the analytical guys. It's a lot of faces to learn. And so, the easiest way for him to get acclimated is to kind of just get to spring training and watch how we do things. Cause like you said, we're not going to have like a sit down meeting and be like, okay, this is how the organization runs. He's just going to see how that unfolds on its own. And, that's where we've always done a really good job in spring training with new guys is we just kind of go about our business, and they immediately pick up on what we do within 2 or 3 days. And, everyone's just focused on us and focused on getting better each day. And what can we do each day to get better? There's one little thing we'll work on every single day, and that's what we're focused on the most. And it's all about winning a baseball game. And, that's always been our number one objective, is just win the game that day. And, guys pick up on that pretty quick.
Were you involved in the recruiting pitch for any of this? Did the Dodgers call you and say, hey, we need you to reach out to Edwin Diaz? He's a pretty good closer. We'd like to have him. Hey, Kyle Tucker's thinking about coming here. Max, reach out and make this guy feel comfortable.
No, I wasn't involved in any of that. I don't know too many guys that were involved in that. I think those deals kind of just came together. Obviously, I'm not.
You guys, Max, you guys are so good, you sell yourselves. You don't even have to remember when you guys were all meeting for dinners with Shohei, all secret dinners, like, oh man, we got to have secret dinners with Shohei. And now people are like, forget that. I want to have dinner with Max Muncy, and please make them come to me now.
No, I mean, obviously I'm not in the war room with the front office guys, but my understanding is those deals kind of just came together. I think those guys wanted to come here. They wanted to win. And, obviously we gave them a lot of money, but, that's one of the things that we've created here is people know about our culture, know about what our organization is about, and they want to come be a part of it.
Are you a little mad that you guys signed Diaz because you got decent numbers against him, or are you fine now that you're not going to need to face him anymore?
Oh, yeah, I'd rather not face him. I don't care what my numbers are. It's not a guy that you want to face.
Speaking of a guy that you don't ever have to face, and anybody has to face except for WBC guys, Kershaw. What do you think about him finally getting his chance to pitch in the WBC? Because from what we heard, it was insurance before, that he wasn't able to participate, kind of like what's going on with Correa and Altuve right now. And what do you expect to see from Kershaw when he throws in the WBC?
I'm super pumped for him. I know he really was bummed that he couldn't do it the last time. He really wanted to, but like you said, there was an insurance thing, and it just, for him, it wasn't worth that fight. So I'm excited to see him go out there and get to put on, the United States jersey. I think that's a cool moment for, any baseball player to be able to rep their country. And I don't know what to expect out of him. The only thing I can tell you is that he's going to compete. That's what he's always done. He goes out there and competes to the absolute best. And, the chances that he gets to pitch, I can promise you he's going to compete and he's going to be fiery out there. But, I don't know what to expect. I don't know, when the season ended, I don't know how much he's kept his arm in shape. I would imagine when you make that decision to retire, you're pretty set on not throwing a baseball again. So I don't know where he'll be at, but it's going to be really fun to watch, and I'll be cheering him on for sure.
All right. First of all, as long as he rocks the dad body, there's nothing more American than him walking around everywhere with no shirt on and the total dad. Go for it, Clayton. You deserve it. You've had an unbelievable career. First ballot Hall of Famer. But is this maybe a hint that he might not be retired? He might come back because, man, if you're retired, why the hell do you want to get all up and get ready to pitch in the WBC every once in a while? Like, you think if you're retired, like, no more throwing, no more working out, no more any of that. But Clayton's like, nope, I'm going to pitch for the USA.
No, I think he's pretty set on being retired. His body has been through so much. His arm's been through so much. And, he had to fight through a lot of stuff last couple of years. And, he's won 3 World Series, back-to-back World Series now. And, I think he's pretty okay with where he's at. And, he's such a good dad at home. And I think he's ready to take that on full time that, unless he comes out in the WBC throwing 95, I think he's pretty set on where he's at.
We discussed it. That wasn't going to be our next question. We discussed that. If he pops a 97, do you think, because of the competitor, the person, you also know the father and husband that he is, does he say maybe? Because every other year he's tried to do the heavy ball stuff, and it's like still just 89 sliders down and away, down and in, 2.3 ERA, and finishes the season out. Does he come back if he pops a 95 or 97?
Look, I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I said, I think he's pretty content with where he's at. But in years past, he's already well into his workouts, been ramping up, right from the season ending, and who knows? Giving his arm a little bit of a break, even though it was, only a month or two, he may come back and his arm might feel great. And, if he does throw 95, he might think I could do this out of the pen for a year. But no, I really believe he's pretty content with where he's at.
We agreed on the show, but it's a fun exercise to talk about it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Your manager, Doc Roberts, said he would love to manage the 2028 Olympic team for Team USA. Do you want to see the big leaguers play in the Olympics? And do you think Doc would be a great manager, even though he'd have to go right up until the day before the Olympics started with you guys and then bang right into Team USA?
Well, first off, yes, he would be a great manager. He's elite at what he does. He's so good at knowing his players and knowing how they operate. And, if you had professional players in the Olympics, he's going to know every single one of them. So there wouldn't be that I got to get to know my players phase. He'd be able to get right into there and be able to know everybody and manage them. And, if there were professional players, the first thing that he would do would be he'd get in contact with, all the coaches of those players just to learn, more about those guys. And, the thing with the professional players being in the Olympics is that would create such a long break in the middle of the summer that, I don't know if that's a reasonable thing to do. Because you're not going to continue the season with star players not playing for their teams. If they're going to be in the Olympics, you're not going to keep the season going. I don't know if I have a good answer to that. Just would I like to see it? Maybe, but at the same time, that's kind of what the WBC is for. It's almost like Olympic baseball, just not in the Olympics. The WBC is a really fun event that I really enjoy watching, and I think it's really cool. But to do it again in the Olympics, I don't know.
Yeah, well, WBC's this year, so you get the full country and everything this year, so we can enjoy that. And if it happens in the next Olympics, that'd be great because it'd be cool to showcase baseball. But the Japanese team seems like they win everything every year. They're in the finals, they're winning this and that. We just talked about Roki Sasaki, and Dave Roberts came out and said, "Oh, he needs a third pitch." Have you faced him in like live BP? And does he need a third pitch, a slider, a curveball, or something? Because fastball split coming out of that pen in the playoffs was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, being a starter and being out of the pen is, your pitch mix has to be a little bit different. If he's sitting 100 with the split, it's because the split is so unlike any other pitch that's out there. It's almost more like a fork ball. He threw a couple splits last year that had like 700, 800 RPM on it, which, that's getting close to knuckleball territory. I don't know if he's sitting 100, he probably doesn't need another pitch. But, when you look at some of the guys out there, you look at, Paul Skeens or, DeGrom, they all have the third pitch that they mix in there. And it's just something to keep the hitter off balance. When there's only two pitches you have to worry about, your approach becomes a little bit more simple. And when you're talking about seeing guys 2-3 times through an order, it's you got to have just something you can throw in there as a wrinkle. Even if it's not a very good pitch, you just have to have something to throw in there as a little bit of a wrinkle.
Did you happen to catch Shohei Ohtani's MVP acceptance speech? Any parts of it?
I did not, no.
Okay. Well, when you go back and check it out, because he did it all in English and did a very good job, fans have been clamoring. They're like, we rarely get to hear Shohei speak, let alone in English. How is his English? And what is the one thing that you guys get on him for when he's speaking English to you guys? And because you've said it multiple times, he's very comfortable. He usually speaks English. He rarely uses an interpreter in the clubhouse. And he didn't use an interpreter when he got his MVP award.
Well, he can speak baseball very, very good. But speaking baseball and speaking just normally is two different things. And, in terms of like a speech, he obviously had time to practice that. He knew what he was going to say. That's a different story than if he's doing an interview with, where questions are coming at him that he doesn't know what's going to be said. In the clubhouse, he obviously speaks, good English because, like I said, he can speak baseball very, very well. It's always been cool to see him interact with teammates. Because he really tries. He definitely really tries. He's not a guy that just says, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'm not going to try to learn." He really tries to learn what his teammates are saying, and he tries to interact. And that's always been a cool thing for me to see is that he cares. He cares enough about his teammates that he wants to learn how to communicate with them.
I need to ask you a question. Do you have a selfie with Shohei?
No, I try not to bother him with that kind of stuff.
I got one. I got one at the awards on the stage. Shohei, I was nervous as crap. John Franco, I don't know if you know John Franco, the old pitcher for the Mets legend, was sitting next to me, and Shohei was up on the stage at the awards. And John's like, "You think he'll take a picture?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let's go together. He won't say no to both of us, will he?" And so we just kind of ran up there real fast, and we got him real quick. John and I, hey. And so now the next question is, if I bring a copy of that to spring training, will he sign it for me?
Probably not. No, I mean, like I said, all my teammates, they get bugged so much with that kind of stuff that I've never tried to be one to ask them for anything.
Listen, Max, it was a once in a lifetime shot, so I took the shot. Okay, just because.
Yeah,
there it is. There you go. Look, I mean, when are you going to get a picture with you and Shohei and tuxedo? I mean, that was my shot, so I took it. I took my shot.
And you're dressed up nice. It's going to look good hanging up in the office, right?
Right now, just think if I sign it, it goes down in value. If he signs it, it goes like way up in value. Even if he writes to AJ, I can take a little something and wipe that off with. Man, I could sell that for like $1.
Well, I wouldn't put that out there for him to hear. You're going to wipe off.
First of all, I would never do any of that. So let's just understand. I would never do any of that. I just want people to know that.
Max, who gets bothered the most? There are many famous teammates at this point. Who gets bothered the most for requests, photos, whatever else that pops up at the ballpark each day?
Yeah, I mean, it shows probably the top, but it's tough to pick from all my teammates. I know Kirsch got bugged a lot last year because when it became known that it was his last year, the requests started flooding in. Guys wanted to make sure they try to get a jersey or a ball or just anything. So I know he got bogged down quite a bit towards the end of the year last year. But yeah, show's probably at the top.
All right. I'm going to finish with, I got 2 fan questions on here.
Hold on, Scott.
Yes.
One this. It's nice when you're Max Muncy and you're a star. You've done a lot of special things. And you walk around and, hey, Shohei, hey, Mookie, hey, Freddy, hey, Will, hey, Yamamoto, hey, Roki. And then your Max is
Max, can you go get Shohei?
Yeah, exactly. You just kind of slide, like Kyle Tucker can just kind of, as good as Kyle Tucker is, he can just hide behind Shohei and Freddie and Mookie, and you guys just walk in and nobody even, Hey, Max, can you please get Shohei to sign my picture for me?
I really don't mind that at all. I've been very comfortable with where I'm at, and I've been very comfortable with who I am. And at the end of the day, all of those guys being in here just gives us a better chance to win. And that's when I get to go home and look at the 3 World Series trophies I've got, and it's a good reminder every single day that it's it really takes a full team effort to win these things, and every single year. And last year was actually really cool. The World Series last year was obviously really cool to me just because it took every single guy on the roster to win that. If any one of those guys was missing, we don't win that World Series. Every single person on the roster played a big part in winning that World Series, whether it was a catch or a hit or a certain pitch or whatever. Every single guy contributed to the one last year, and so it's just it's such a team effort that I don't mind being in the shadows. It's fun.
Max, I'll queue up a fan question here, and I'll try to combine actually both. So the fan jokingly asked, or maybe not, Are you going to practice the wheel play in spring training this year? Do you guys have it down? And other fans have asked also if there's anything that you're working on or that you changed in the offseason. So I'll kind of mix both of those questions together because we had Nolan Arenado on yesterday, and he actually said he's done many things differently this offseason. These guys can probably comment more about what he was saying, but it had more to do, I guess, with rest, diet, whatever else that he's trying to switch up as everybody gets a year older and you try to be the prime version of yourself. So thoughts on both there?
Well, first the wheel play. No, I don't know that we'll practice it this spring. We'll practice the usual bunt defenses and we'll see what Bobby G has drawn up for us once spring starts. But as I talked about it last year after we ran it, that's a play that we hadn't practiced since the pitcher stopped hitting. And it's just one of those things where it just kind of came together in the moment. And if we have to run it again, I think it'll be another come together in the moment type thing. And Doc's going to trust the players on the field to know what they need to do. And obviously we'll have a discussion about it, but I don't think we'll be practicing it. And as for the other question, I think the thing that most of us have done this year is just having the experience of being, in the World Series multiple years now, understanding how important rest is. So I think most of the guys I've talked to have been on the same program that I've been on, that we haven't started any baseball activity until, the middle of January almost. Some guys are still just now starting and just trying to give your body as much rest as possible, knowing that if we want to make another run to November, you got to be as rested as you can to get through the summertime. Most guys like to hit and throw all year round, but for us, we got to have that rest. And so most guys have just pushed back their training until now, starting now, knowing that spring training this year is going to be more how it was, in the old days, where spring training is almost like your off season, where you're really starting to ramp up in spring training instead of showing up to spring training fully ready to go. Which you guys have seen that evolution just as the years have gone by. It's more and more you have to be ready from the first game of spring versus, you're using spring training to get ready.
All right, before we let you go, are you and Kirsch the only two guys that have all three rings? Or Kike?
Mookie.
Kike, Mookie, Will.
Oh yeah, geez. There's a whole lot of y'all.
Yeah, and then D May and Tony Gonsolin count.
Oh yeah. Man, there's a lot. Yeah, man, that's amazing that you guys have kept this many guys together for
Doc?
a long time.
Well, yeah. Well, obviously Doc, but I think that might be it.
That's pretty awesome, though. That's a lot because I look at teams now. The 2021 I'm just using the 2021 White Sox. There's not one player left, and they didn't win anything, and their team's all gone. But usually when guys win, that the free agent contracts or this or that, they leave. Whatever. It's just an amazing feat that you guys have kept that many guys together for so long. It's a credit to the organization and the people on that team, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and it's it's just really cool to have that group of guys to have been through all of this together, and it is pretty wild that 3 World Series, 4 or 5 years of winning 100+ games. It's been a good ride.
Incredible, dude. Well, great catching up with you. Have a great workout. Next time we see you, we'll be in spring training. So safe travels out there. We'll see you soon. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Max. That's Max Muncy of the Dodgers territory, part of the FT network. Actually, will feature Andrew Friedman as their next guest. It's tomorrow. Andrew Friedman on the show, head honcho of the front office. Be right back.
If you're looking to get your food routine down at home, you need to add some premium protein from Omaha Steaks.
That's right. It's steaks. The filet mignon is incredible, Kratz. I've had the chicken. I've had the shrimp cocktail. We both love the burgers very much. And there's a way to save a little money on your order. So you can go to omahasteaks.com. Promo code is FOUL at checkout to get yourself an extra $35 off.
The fan favorite filet mignon has earned the coveted distinction of the USDA certified very tender, a family-owned company with over 100 years of expertise in the meat industry.
Let Omaha Steaks deliver high-quality proteins right to your door. Visit omahasteaks.com and get an extra $35 off with promo code FOUL at checkout. That's OMAHA steaks.com, promo code FOUL. Terms apply. See site for details. Here comes Kevin Acee from the San Diego Union Tribune back on FT. Big part of the offseason and breaking news out there in San Diego, the Darvish story, Mike Shildt. We'll get to all of that. Kevin, great to see you. I actually want to start with the topic that came up in our conversation with Ken Rosenthal yesterday. Does everyone hate Luis Arraez around baseball? Not the person. He's very fun-loving, but his game, we haven't heard a peep about him. He's one of my favorite players. I know his flaws, but he also has a significant strength. Your thoughts on him and what you see happening here?
Well, since you opened the door, I'll say one of the most joyous people that I've ever covered. And I don't think he'll be back for the Padres, though clearly Luis is going to have to decide what kind of contract he wants. And so I guess maybe the Padres could be an option at a certain price, but I will miss him. He brings incredible value to a team when he is Luis Arraez. Last year, he was not Luis Arraez. That's just a fact. And they kept him in the number 2 hole, and it hurt them. Now, the year before, they probably don't make the playoffs without Luis Arraez. So the guy definitely has value, but clearly what MLB thinks about him is reflected not only in the fact that, he did win those 3 batting titles with 3 different teams. And then this offseason, certainly somewhat predictable, but slower probably than anyone did imagine that it would be for a guy who has accomplished what he has.
What he does is incredible, and it's not appreciated in the game, but you watched him. He played 154 games last year. What did you see his deficiency is? Obviously, we know about the power, but how, he came up in spots. And he didn't win a batting title, and I guess if you don't have power, people think you have to win a batting title. But he hit 292, so I'm pretty sure that's okay. That last I checked. But when you watched him come up to the plate in the situation around all the other guys that they had in that lineup, what did you see other teams do? We got this guy. This is an out. And he might get a hit, but this is fine.
I think that they had, and I hate to break it down like this. I mean, I wrote 10 different stories on what's wrong with Luis Arraez or what's right with Luis Arraez. And I think I came to the conclusion the guy didn't have the same kind of good fortune. I didn't use the word luck on purpose because I don't want to make it sound like he was just this lucky player. Clearly he wasn't. He has an amazing skill. But they played him better, though I didn't notice that in particular in terms of, but they were where the ball was for Luis Arraez. Now, the guys, and I forget what it was, but his on-base percentage was extremely disappointing. And so the batting average was whatever that would be, 20 points lower than his career or than the previous couple of years. The on-base percentage was probably 20, 30 points lower than it was. So when he's not hitting, he is not providing the value that you need, especially near the top of the order. But honestly, you don't track Luis Arraez by bat speed. You don't track him by plate discipline. You don't track him by exit velocity. So he's just this sort of a unicorn. And when he had a bad year, and Mike Shildt continued to have that faith in him, one of the strengths of Mike Shildt as a manager, and that faith ultimately was not justified.
Kevin, news on Yu Darvish. Is he retiring? Is he not retiring? Are the Padres buying him out? I mean, I played with Yu Darvish in 2013, and I know he's been great in San Diego, not only on the mound when he's been on the mound, but also in the clubhouse. Is he retiring? Then I read something where, he might take the year off and accept a buyout, maybe then come back in 27 and renegotiate. What the heck is happening with Yu Darvish?
Well, I want to be upfront and say that I should not have used the word retired in my original story. I knew better. Yu Darvish is not ready to say that he's retired. There's a difference between other people saying, Yu's retiring and a guy officially retiring. And so I erred in being definitive about that, which I quickly corrected. The rest of the story, and I was to some extent purposely vague, but I said Yu Darvish is walking away from his contract, and that will prove to be true. That is true. What form that comes in, and that's where I was purposely vague. No one either can or will tell me. And it does seem that there still have to be some decisions made on what that looks like. The union's involved. Joel Wolf and Wasserman, his agency, are involved. The Padres are involved. Yu Darvish, obviously, is the guy who gets to make the decision. But what is clear is that Yu Darvish, who, by the way, gave back or, didn't get paid, I think, $4 million in 2024 when he voluntarily went on the restricted list because he did not think it was right that he was taking money when he was attending to a personal matter. He does not believe that this money, this 43, 46 million, bad with numbers today. It's still the offseason, thankfully. But this 40 something million that he is due over the next 3 years, which is 100% his right to collect. And plenty of guys have done it and plenty of guys will do it. But Yu does not think that he, if he doesn't play, should collect that money. And so Yu Darvish will be giving back or forfeiting or voiding his contract. Now, what that means, buyout, restructure of some sort, I don't know. But the fact is that Yu Darvish is going to walk away from this contract.
When you said you're purposely being vague, can you explain that a little bit more? Or is that the whole premise of purposely being vague?
Thank you for that. Yes. It was because we don't know. I certainly don't know. But the people I'm talking to claim to not know exactly what this is going to look like. And look, I didn't want to work on Saturday. I was playing pickleball. This is something I'd been following for a couple months as you sort of went back and forth and gathered his information, talked with his people, talked with the Padres. And suddenly it came that on Saturday morning, it was, okay, this thing that, we've been talking about, it's going to happen. But all that we really know is Yu Darvish is walking away. The Padres will realize a savings, which is something, by the way, that they've been budgeting for. I mean, that's Yu Darvish has let them know this is what he's doing. So whatever moves the Padres ultimately make before spring training, probably during spring training, be that bolster their rotation, sign that first baseman, designated hitter, that will partially come from Yu Darvish's money.
All right, well, you kind of answered it, but can you give us a little bit of the background of when you have a conversation? You had it directly with you, correct?
I have talked with you a few times about this. Okay. I did not talk to you on Saturday.
How is he communicating his next steps in the sense of is it, oh man, it's just done, or is it, I'm done. I don't have what it takes to rehab this, and I'm totally content with it. Because we rarely get to see inside a player's thought process as the final days of his career are coming.
I don't think I'd be speaking out of turn to say that Yu is not at peace with being done because of clearly his social media posts in the wake of my story and what he has said, which is that he is I believe in a Japanese session with fans, he said that he was going to forfeit at least 2026, but he, in his X post, he said that he's leaning toward voiding the contract. Whatever the semantics of that is, it's clear that you, and I've been told, look, and I'll phrase this. This was on the record when you and I talked, that you said he can't think about playing baseball right now. He needs to get his body right, not just the elbow, but his body. He's 39. He's been doing this a long time. He's compensated for some things with the elbow. He needs to get his body right. He has 7 children. His son's about to start playing at UCSD. He needs time with the family. He can't think about playing baseball right now. But he's not willing to say that it's over because he knows himself. And this is what he's been doing for his whole life, virtually. And that he knows that at some point that ache will come back to play. And so if his body's able, he may want to play. And I've had some people, and look, there's a small circle of people that really know what Yu's thinking. And I've had some of those people talk about all sorts of possibilities, including Yu Darvish, coming back to MLB on a minor league deal and in spring training in some future years. And that no one really does think that Yu Darvish has said to himself, all right, that's it, I'm done. I think Yu has actually made that clear.
Can they get the money back? I don't. I mean, if he says I void, wouldn't they want the Padres want him to do this sooner than later? Because I'm not exactly the number he's making, but I'm assuming it's around 20-ish million, if not more. Then the Padres can save that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they could say, hey, we could use that towards.
Oh. No, that's something that they have sort of unofficially budgeted for 2026 and beyond is this money. This has been an ongoing thing where, it's a big decision for you. So it's not like, he has, I don't know if I want to say gone back and forth or whatever, but he has not been definitive to them until recently that this is definitely going to be the case, that they are going to get money back.
Wow. Okay. Well, then I'll ask this question. What do the Padres need with the money? What do they need? Is this team enough with Musgrove coming back and Mason Miller at the back end and some of the other things? Is this team good enough to compete with or without the money from Yu Darvish?
I think that they could be a playoff team, but what is that even saying anymore, right? Like they're a contending team. 6 teams make the playoffs in the National League. So I think that with Joe coming back, with Nick Pivetta, with Michael King coming back, Randy Vasquez is a guy that you're going to end up talking about at some point this year because he's a really good 3 or 4 starter. He is. Now that leaves, they got depth problems, both starting pitching and position player. I probably have as big a reservations about this team in terms of their depth. And you could argue that they've had depth issues every year. Of course, I guess you could argue that everyone but the Dodgers has depth issues. I wonder, where is this going to come from? And you have 2 guys that are facing legacy years, and Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. I think they're 2 of the best players to ever play this game, but they need to step up and have the kind of years that they're supposed to have, that they're being paid to have. There's a lot of questions about this team. Who is behind them? And who's behind, Xander Bogaerts, Jake Cronenworth, Gavin Sheets? Well, you need another first baseman. And you need a designated hitter. Are those the same guy? Okay, well then you need another extra outfielder. So they have a power deficiency, unless obviously Fernando and Manny have those types of years that I've talked about. And they do not have a first baseman right now because you're not going to, as good as he was and what he proved, you're not running Gavin Sheets out there every day to play first base.
All right. I feel like every offseason or even partway through the year, you hear some rumor, and I think it's started by other teams, but can you confirm that there's 0 or 100% chance they would have shopped Fernando Tatis?
0 for now. You notice that that's been basically the caveat is for now. First off, the team is for sale. Whether that happens or not, it depends on who you ask right now. But let's assume it's for sale. So that, we can't say what's going to happen in the future. But the fact is they have boxed themselves to a certain extent. Now, whenever I say that, I got to give the asterisk of AJ Preller. He finds a way to build this team and fit it within whatever budget he's given. But the fact is that they're going to be paying Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado some big money in the future, and those guys are probably unmovable. Fernando Tatis Jr. is very movable. If there's a piece in the future where this team has to, and this is a gigantic if, all right? It's like capital if, italicized bold. If they have to do that, Fernando Tatis Jr. is the guy that goes. And yes, he has a no trade. Those can be worked out. Should be noted, but those can be worked out. Zero chance. Believe me, I have embarrassed myself how many times I've asked people in the organization because this rumor comes up so often and you just can't rule anything out. So even though I knew it was 0, I've asked until we're less than 0, that he was not going to be traded this offseason.
That doesn't mean after opening day he can be traded.
So you're saying
Okay,
there's
how
a
about
chance.
this? I'll give you trade deadline. I doubt it. Gosh, I hate doing this because in today's day and age, you know how these things take off. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it will happen. I do not think it will happen. I think that what they have built in San Diego with the fans, like that's a precious thing. I think that when you're building a team, you've got to make it the best team you can, regardless of what the fans are going to think. Fernando Tatis Jr. is like the guy in San Diego. Yes, Manny Machado, people love him. Jackson Merrill working his way up there. Joe Musgrove, but Fernando Tatis Jr. is the guy. What the Padres have built in this small market with the fans, with the sellouts, with the passion that is unprecedented in this town for the Padres. That is all at risk if they get rid of Fernando Tatis Jr. I do not believe Fernando Tatis Jr. will be moved. I am in the business of it doesn't really matter what I believe. The facts are he could be moved at some time. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, just so you know how media works and social media, Kevin. Now we're going to clip this, and we're going to clip it, and in the headline it's going to say Kevin Acee says Fernando Tatis will be moved at trade deadline. Now we're not going to put what year. We're not going to put what year. It could be 2030, but you said it, so congratulations. You're the first guy to say the Padres, and now everyone in San Diego will hate you. But now,
that's why I spoke the way I did, where I was all over the place and I was doing this caveat, but the while knowing that all that many people would see is the headline. So
yes. You're purposely vague, right? Isn't that your word, purposely vague?
I love that strategy.
That's smart. Well, it's smart. Now, two guys that the San Diego people love, maybe more than Fernando Tatis, is Don Orsillo and Mud Grant. Okay, and they have a bobblehead coming out of them two and Don's mini yacht, as he calls it. Can someone explain to me where they got the picture of Don Orsillo? Because that does not look like Don Orsillo. I am sorry. That is way too young for Don. I text him the same thing. I said, I need one of these, but who did they get to stand in for your model? Can we talk to the Padres and find out who modeled for Don Orsillo?
Yeah, and if I'm looking close, like both Don and Mud have, trimmed up. They really have. They're taking care of themselves. Okay. But that's pretty svelte there for Don as well, if we're being honest, right?
I mean,
come on. I'm looking at it. Wow.
And by the way, that mini yacht has a weight limit. That's why Don will never take me in it. And if he puts him and Mud in it, it might sink still. Because I think the weight limit is like 250 pounds. So they maybe should have made the boat a little bigger.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I was unclear that Mud had ever been on there because of that particular thing. Yes. But I'm telling you, I saw Mud on Sunday. Mud looks great. So yeah, far better than Don. I mean, I can't believe that they let him get away with that bobblehead.
I love it. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's going to be awesome. They're one of the best. I'm not going to say they're the best duo that happens in Major League Baseball, but they are definitely at the top. They have fun. They laugh. And I've done many games with Don Orsillo. I only have one complaint. Scott knows my complaint. Padres broadcast booth. And Kratz is going to be like, what are you talking about? Is the only one in MLB where it's backwards. So in every broadcast booth, the play-by-play guy sits to my left. Okay? And in San Diego, for some reason, the play-by-play guy sits to your right. And now I'm like Zoolander. I'm not a very good ambi-turner. So I can't go right? So I'm always like, oh, and there's a wall there. So I don't know why they did it that way, but it's the only one that I know of in MLB where it's backwards.
I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Next column. Why is the San Diego broadcast booth backwards?
Is that just for TV?
Yeah.
Because radio, when I did radio, play-by-play guy was always to my right. But I guess that doesn't matter. You just set up wherever you want.
Yeah, I was going to say, who sees? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's just San Diego, Scott. I think you've done games there. And I think it's because the stat guy, the way they built the booth, has to be on the right. Otherwise, he's reaching over you with his cards for the play-by-play guy. But it's just strange. I don't know.
Actually, I haven't. I've done sideline there. I have not done play-by-play there. I didn't do any games there. So I don't even remember if I went up to the booth. Probably not. But that's good to know. That would have made me super confused.
Maybe it's Orsillo's good side. Maybe he's the one who started this.
That's a good point. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin, always a pleasure catching up with you. We love your info. Really great cracking into some news this off season. Love reading it. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate the time. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You too. That's Kevin Acee. You can read all of his work in the San Diego Union Tribune. He's been on this show too, Friar Territory. Subscribe to it. Your home for in-depth Padres talk. Part of the FT Network. Bring it back here for a moment if you can before we queue up the next thing. So for the last few minutes of that conversation, I'm just going to let everyone in on a little thing. I was going back and forth on DMs with a guest who's scheduled for tomorrow. I think this is the first time in FT history where I botched the timing. Jake Mangum is one of the guests joining us tomorrow. We have a great guest list the rest of the week too. So Mangum's on tomorrow, Kyle Higashioka, Friday's Harrison Bader, Ryan O'Hearn. I'm DMing with Mangum, and he's great. He's really good at getting back and forth, and he's super entertaining. He was on Bucko Territory the other day. He said tomorrow, whatever it is where I'm sending something over then to Mark behind the scenes, who everyone probably knows at this point, we've talked about him before, tomorrow can get very tricky when half of Mark and I's work is between like 12 and 3 a.m. So he was like, hey, I'm waiting. And then I ran in there and I was like, oh no, we had you for Thursday, not today. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. I told him he's special. I think he's the first person that we've truly mixed up times like this with. Might be. I'll let him know tomorrow. So just letting you guys in on a little back and forth I was having with Jake. He's great. We love him. We love Bucko Territory, but he'll be on tomorrow. And I bet that a quarter of the interview will be AJ telling Jake how disorganized I am, that we missed one time out of how many interviews have we done? 1,200.
Where's Jake from? I just want to know before we go on.
Not State Farm.
No,
I think.
but where's he from?
Oh, is he from Mississippi?
He's from Mississippi, so you know that's coming up tomorrow, Kratz. So get ready.
Hey, but he's not a high school product. He was a college.
Yes,
product.
he went to high school in Mississippi, and then he went to Mississippi.
No, I know,
State.
but I thought it's about.
He went to college.
Drafted out of high school in Mississippi.
I want you to bring it up.
Because
I'm just
he can
telling
ask Connor Griffin about it too when he sees him in spring training. He can ask him about it also.
I will totally ask him, and he will have the nicest, most polite, and motivated answer possible. And Scott, I forgive you for making the mistake. AJ still hasn't made a mistake yet on the show, scheduling guests. So when he does, I will forgive him too.
Thank you.
You just don't hear about it because I just text Scott and Mark separately. But I have. There's been a few times where I've messed up times or down to the wire. Oh, so-and-so needs a change right now. You see me like this.
I just did it. I set up Higgy and I go, yeah, Higgy wants to come on at 12:20 on Thursday. Mark said, we're not on at 12:20. And I'm like, no, West Coast time. He goes, we're still not on. And I was like, wait a minute, 3 hours? Shoot, I'm an idiot. So I just did it last week.
Higgy's going to be the starting catcher, by the way. We got to dig into that with him. Is this going to be like the first time he goes into a season as the starter?
Oh, believe me. We have a quote. We have a quote from 2018 for Kyle Higashioka that was told to him when he got fired and sent down to AAA. It'll be great. We'll bring it up.
Hold on. One more thing is behind the scenes. I took the fall. I'm taking the fall. This isn't on Mark. Yeah. This is on me. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I clarified. Yeah, no, I know, not to you, Kratz, but they're joking behind the scenes. Mark and Jeremy and everyone else, like Booker fail, all that. No, me. I mean, I guess me, Booker fail, yes. So that's my bad on the communication there. Anyway, let's get back to biz. Jack Curry does that Yes Network show about the offseason. He's great reporting on the Yankees, and he said there's interest in the Yankees bringing back Paul Goldschmidt. What do we think about that fit for the Yankees? Goldie is still really good against left-handed pitching. Do you feel like the Yankees roster is starting to become a lot more platoon-oriented?
Old?
Well, old too. That's been a thing for a while. But do you feel like it's starting to get more platoonish where they're going to have...
In what way?
I mean, they're going to have what? At least if Goldie comes back, you might have half the lineup change depending on the lefty or the righty. Some teams do that, and some teams don't do that at all. right? So it felt like the Yankees used to be a team where it's like mostly the same dudes as long as they're healthy every day. And now if Goldie came back, you'd have Goldie. I mean, this is what they did, I guess, towards the end of last season. Med Rosario is a platoon guy. Ryan McMahon is a platoon guy.
Who are they playing over? Because McMahon, I think they want his defense in there every day, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, Caballero is going to play short, and when Volpe comes back, they don't have a platoon option. Maybe he won't play as much, but that's not platoon. Jazz is going to play every day. Judgy's going to play every day. Are they going to platoon Grisham in center field? And then when a lefty goes, they're going to have who play left field? Ahmed Rosario? Dominguez? He can't hit right-handed.
Yeah.
He can't hit against lefties. Like, he's not a platoon.
The catcher, Austin Wells, they platoon a little bit. Ben Rice, they platoon. I mean, that's where Goldschmidt's role would be, was when we face a lefty, we let you play first. But here's the thing. I mean, I know Goldie did okay in New York, but couldn't he go back to Arizona? We could have that reunite, and it feels so good, right? In Arizona, maybe? Because who's their first baseman? Pavin Smith? He's left-handed. Maybe they could use Goldie there, and we could have the happy feels again for him and the Diamondbacks.
I thought he should be in San Diego. We just talked to Kevin Acee. I thought Paul Goldschmidt in San Diego would be a better fit than other places. I'm not saying he's going to go there. I'm not saying he wants to go there or they even want him. But I mean, they've given him opportunity. They have a young lineup for the most part that could fill in if they don't want him to face righties. But I guess I wouldn't add too much more slow.
So you would platoon Cronenworth and Goldie?
Yeah, I mean, I would give Goldie all the left-handed at bats, and then Cronenworth still has value playing more than just first base.
No. I know that. I'm saying at first base, you could platoon Cronenworth there, and then
100%.
I mean, we'll see.
Cronenworth's he's making so much money
like.
Platoon.
No, I'm not saying platoon him full time, but I'm saying
here's the problem with Goldie in the platoon
when Goldie's playing first.
Goldie's going to want too much money to do unless he accepts the platoon role, and then because if you just say, "Hey, I'm a platoon role," a lot of times you get less money, and San Diego didn't have any money. I mean, that's all they're talked about, right? So would he accept less to go somewhere? I don't know. I mean,
I think he'll take 8 to 10. And we just talked about Darvish giving back 15 or 16 for this year.
Hasn't happened yet.
Right. But I'm saying
I don't care. Here's my thing about the Darvish, and we haven't even really talked about this. He's just such a good guy. He's going to give back $45 million, whatever he's owed. I don't know what he's owed the last 3 years, around there, right? He said 15. So he's just like,
interesting.
I haven't earned it. I'm going to give back 45, even though I signed this contract. There's going to have to be some sort of a buyout, right? He says, because first of all, let me say this too. As much as we love the PA would not be happy if he said, I'm just going to give this back because I'm such a nice guy. Like the PA would be like, whoa, no. Let's get your money. We signed a contract. And his agent would be like, hey man, I get my cut of that too. I don't know. Maybe he is that good of a guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you're eliminating the essence of a guaranteed contract, but it's for one player. And if he doesn't want to play, it's not unprecedented. Gil Mesh did it. We brought him the other day. There's a few other names. There aren't many, but there are a few other names. Yeah, there might be an internal battle going on. Darvish might be like, yo, I'm rich. And for me, reputation-wise and what I believe in, I don't think that I should be getting paid if I'm not playing and I want to quit. And then the other side, which is reps, union, the whole deal is like, we don't like that. Ultimately, it comes down to you. I think he can decide whatever he wants, Darvish, but it sounds like they're trying to figure things out behind the scenes. I don't think it's going to be a case like Anthony Rendon, where they're still paying him the money out. They're just stretching it a little bit with deferrals. It sounds like there'll be a portion of this deal that actually just gets nixed because he's not going to play, right? Maybe they look at this year and say, hey, you weren't going to pitch anyway, so we'll take this year, we'll defer it, and then the year after that, we'll then get wiped. Something like that could occur. I'm just throwing scenarios out there. We shall see. Michael Kadire was another name that was just listed by Mark.
Ryan Dempsey. Every situation is different, and that's why ultimately it's up to you. You gets to decide, and he's already done it. It's not unprecedented. He was going through something in his personal life, and he gave back the $4 million during that time. Plenty of players don't do that, so it's not unprecedented. While I agree with AJ, it is a crazy precedent that the PA, his agent, and other players do not want to be up against that standard. But ultimately, it's up to you.
True.
As in Darvish, not
as in Darvish.
Up to you.
Back to what the original hot corner topic was Paul Goldschmidt to the Yankees. Cool. I mean, I think it's great. Again, we talked about sometimes some guys have earned some leeway in getting more at-bats, and I think if you think Ben Rice is as good as I think the Yankees think he is, I'd like to see a few more left at-bats. I'd like to see him, because of where he's come as a hitter and as a player, kind of coming out of nowhere, really establishing himself, changing things when he was in the minor leagues, to then get his shot in the big leagues, take advantage of his shot. To me, give him that challenge. And you can have a guy who plays every day. And to me, they could enhance that roster flexibility and enhance that roster, just the way that they can deploy different guys. He can also catch. I didn't like the way he moves around behind the dish, but the organization really likes how he receives, and we'll see how those receiving numbers actually matter when the ABS comes in. But there's a value there when a guy can truly catch in the big leagues once every 5 days, but he's also playing first base. So you can give Austin Wells those days off against lefties if you're not afraid of letting Ben Rice hit against lefties.
Mm-hmm. Goldie got 1 year, 12.5 last year. I think he'd be looking at about half of
8
that.
to 10? 6 to 8?
5 to 7.
I mean, Lane Thomas got more than that, and Paul Goldschmidt.
Lane Thomas? We're going to make a Lane Thomas comp in a league that
judges a lot of their projections
on the age curve?
He got $6.5 million, and I think Paul Goldschmidt. I'm just saying, based on what free agency is looking like right now, I think he would get. I think he would project to get more.
I don't actually. I think the projections probably have Lane Thomas doing more this season. I'm talking about what the front offices look at. The age curve part is such a big deal, right? Goldie has been going down in one direction. I guess it's fair, not in production against left-handed pitching, but career low slugging percentage, all that. So if you're just wiping him out and making him a platoon-only player, I mean, the differential was large. 619 OPS versus right-handed pitching. That's not good enough for a first baseman or a DH, and he's not doing that with the Yankees. 981 against lefties. That's good, but that's a platoon guy, right? That's a guy that's going to play just against lefties. So I think it's more in the 6-ish range. That's me. We'll see. Friendly wager with Kratz. One more tweet during Hot Corner. This guy's good. Bradford William Davis. He gets info on the league. I think he was the guy that broke the story about how Manfred's family member is involved with this whole minor league monopoly situation. So he said after MLB, and this was retweeted by Saris, by the way, who's been all over this as well. After MLB seized control of the player tracking tech business, the league missed its January 15th deadline for approving vendors. Teams don't know how long they can use their tech to scout players. Some firms don't know if they'll have a baseball business once contracts expire. He also added in a reply tweet that spring training is like a couple weeks away. This is what happens. This is actually an unexpected part of what happens. Usually they've got it together where the deadline's there. This makes things even more uncomfortable. We talked about this topic, I think, AJ, while you were away. Mm-hmm. In addition to how many wrongs there are in this decision, businesses and jobs are being affected by this decision. Potentially many.
Absolutely they are. This needs to be taken care of.
Yeah. Well, really the way to take care of it is to not say we're deciding on one company for things, but that ship has sailed. Let's get to our next guest. Senior contributor to Forbes, Maury Brown, back on the show. Maury, it's great to see you, and we love the work that you're doing overall covering the business of baseball, but we wanted to focus at least for a few minutes here on the Dodgers. So thanks for joining us. And I think a big story that actually broke on the business side of baseball this week was how the Dodgers are somewhat unfairly keeping more of the revenue sharing money, not legally unfairly, but when you look at the scope of the league. I'll let you take it away because you're smarter than me at explaining this stuff.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a back to the future story. I mean, it's actually something that's been around since 2012. It's resurfaced recently. But basically what happened, guys, was that when the Dodgers were involved in bankruptcy, which is, when you think about that now, it's shocking in and of itself that the Dodgers were in a bankruptcy case, right? But when Frank McCourt owned the club, he tried to sell the media rights to be part of his divorce settlement. Bud Selig stepped in and said, no way, do not do that. We're not going to allow that in the best interest of baseball. And it went into a court-appointed sale. And when that happened, there was no regional sports network to speak of yet for the Dodgers, right? So we have no situation which we have now. So at the time, what they did was the court said, well, what do you think when you guys go into this regional sports network thing? What do you think the fair market value is going to be? So they projected that out and they said somewhere in the neighborhood of around $84 million a year. Well, that was grossly misunderstated, but got into the court proceedings on how much the value of the club would be. That made a determination for when Guggenheim purchased it. They said, yeah, that's what you guys said it was going to be. That's what we think it's going to be. That was a big determination into what we did when we purchased the club for $2 billion and change, right? Well, lo and behold, what happened? They worked with Time Warner. They partnered on what is now Spectrum LA, and that became, of course, an $8.35 billion media rights deal. Well, the court said it was supposed to be $84 million a year. The average annual value, as reported by the LA Times, is $334 million annually, not $84 million annually. So they stuck with that. The league, of course, was very unhappy about this, as were, I'm sure, 29 other owners. So the league went back to them and said, look, this is just not right. They're going to, we got to do something about this. The Dodgers said we would have never gone into this purchase if we had thought that that's how much it was going to be. So they got it bumped up to about $160 million, which last time I checked, guys, is less, there's $334 million annually in your AAV, and there's $160 million, and that's a wide disparate thing. So that's where we're at. Now, look, the numbers that myself and others have looked at was about a $6 billion Dodge, right? I mean, it's not that they're paying $6 billion in revenue sharing. It's that amount of money does not get allocated to revenue sharing. I've been told, as have others, that number is grossly overstated. What it is, they won't say. But I think the bottom line, guys, is the one thing that you can know for certain here is they're not paying the full amount that others would normally do. And so, again, I think that the key factor in all of this is that it wasn't Major League Baseball's doing. This has to do with how Frank McCourt had driven the Dodgers into bankruptcy, and and then how it became a court-appointed deal and how that got locked in.
If we opened the books, if you were able to look at the books for not just the Dodgers, but baseball teams, what would be the first thing you would look at? Because we hear all about the cap. We hear all about this stuff, and players say, okay, well, open your books if everything's going poorly. What would you look at to make this a fair level across the board, which is what I think fans want?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, right? I mean, there's a number of things. There's contract appreciation and a bunch of technical minutia that, gets played out into that, maintenance on your ballpark, all kinds of stuff. But I think that the biggest thing would be how they're basically formulating any outside stuff. I mean, again, regional sports networks are traditionally not counted as part of revenue, but if you own it, you're obviously one hand is paying the other. So I think it would be interesting to look at. I mean, we see this a bit with the Braves, right? Where they have their public disclosure on how much the battery is. I think it would be interesting to understand exactly what their revenue input is, what their true costs are, and the percentage of how much of that is going to pay for the players. It's been hanging around, anywhere from like 48%, 50% of costs are around the players, right? But again, I think that's, of course, that's an aggregate. I mean, how much other clubs spend are there? If you looked at the Pirates books, they would be widely disparate of what we see in terms of what, let's say, the Dodgers do. It would be interesting, I think, to see all the different revenue sources that all these clubs have. And again, what some of the have-nots have and what obviously clubs like the Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs have.
Maury, that's always what I say. I say, open your books fully and we'll see. But teams are smart. We lost because we always, I'm not going to use the Pirates. I use the Marlins. The Marlins have the Miami Marlins Baseball Club that does this tickets, and then they put the payroll out of that. But then they also have a separate entity, Miami Marlins Inc. or whatever it is, Marlins Baseball Inc. that does the parking and the concessions and the merchandise. And that's the one they make money. So they go back to Major League Baseball and say, hey, we lost all this money this year. Look, guys. But then in the other, it's like under this rock, we have this, and under this rock, we have something different. I don't know. It's a crazy game that we can't get more transparency. I get why they're playing the game the way the rules are. But gosh, it would be nice to just know how much, like the Braves kind of have to do, how much every team is making. So then people would also say, man, the players aren't as greedy as we thought they were.
Yeah, I think another thing on this is it would be interesting to see what the percentage of revenues come out of revenue sharing to the bottom teams, right? The ones that are hanging around at the bottom, in subsequent years, right? And there's a lot of discussion about what's happening at the top, and obviously there's economic disparity. But I have always contended that the biggest problem is at the bottom. You shouldn't have teams hanging around there for, subsequent 5-6 years, right? I mean, you should be using that revenue sharing money to try and make yourself better. And throwing your hands up in the air, I don't think is a way to really satisfy that. I understand what the commissioner's trying to do, right? They're saying that there's concern about one club or the other having a leg up. But guys, unless I'm wrong here, we had the same conversation in 98 to 2000 with the Yankees, right? I mean, the Yankees were the poster child for this discussion for a long time. Do we need to do something? Probably. I don't know if a cap is really going to do what I think a lot of people think it will do. But it's always that question of, can you really have a truly equal parity across all of them? And you never will. I mean, the Dodgers are feasting right now on all of the Pacific Rim deals that they're making with sponsorships that they've done through Ohtani and Yamamoto. I mean, that's something that isn't new, right? I mean, but it isn't old for them. I mean, if you go back to before Ohtani was there, they had some, but we're seeing this now, and you go, well, is it always going to be like that? I don't know. But it does give them a leg up. And again, large market, large brand clubs are always going to have additional revenue streams that these other ones don't. I don't think that a cap system is going to work maybe in the manner that I think a lot of fans think it will. First of all, I don't think it'll ever happen. But even if it did, I think it will help the middle class. It would help the middle class more than the ones at the bottom. I don't know if the Pirates or Marlins or Rays get any more competitive than they are now.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. You talked about the Pacific Rim and all the money that the Dodgers are bringing in. Is there any way of not projecting it forward, but figuring out how much that is bringing? Because you can do the TV revenue that you were just talking about. You can do the math. It comes out to about 160 million more, if I did the math from what you were saying, per year that they're able to bring in that's not revenue shared through that? But like the Shohei, the Yamamoto, do you have any inside info or like any guesses about where some of those contracts are? And are they going to continue to grow as the team continues to win in those areas?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really difficult thing. I mean, others have kind of looked at it and tried to eyeball it. Somewhere maybe around, 200 to 220 million dollars that could come in through Pacific Rim sponsorship deals. It's significant. Other clubs have had this advantage in the past. The Mariners did this when Nintendo was the primary owner. Certainly with Ichiro, you're able to ink those kind of deals. But it is a unique situation. First of all, Ichiro is a star, and it's not like this drives everyone. I don't know what let's say, the Padres have done with Yu Darvish, but the possibilities are there. And again, I think that the key factor in this is that when you're a large brand in a large market, your ability to just reach out and make those kind of deals, you're just staffed to deal with this. So is it going to continue to grow? That is largely, I think, going to depend on the health and well-being primarily of Shohei Ohtani. I mean, if he keeps going in this trajectory, right? I mean, he's got a couple more years left, 3, 4, 5 maybe left under him. He may not pitch, at the later end of his career, but he should still be able to do damage at the plate. And I still think he's going to be a star. If he's injured, and that's always a possibility for every player in the league, then it changes a little bit. But those opportunities are going to be there. And that's, of course, a risk with the sponsors. You don't go into a deal that's like 1 year or 2 years, or can I back out of this if said player gets injured? They're normally locked in. So I think that it probably continues to open up opportunities for them. I don't know how big those deals are, but I think it would be probably irresponsible if you're the Dodgers not to look into every opportunity you can.
You talked about the cap. Everybody says yes to a cap or no to a cap.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to find the answer in between. I want you to find the answer that suffices and brings honest, real world, like financial change without the cap, which the players don't want, or with the cap, which the owners want. It's like it's too polar. They're too far apart for it to happen, in my opinion. But there is a clamoring from the fans that they want a little bit more economic stability. Where do you feel like that could change the most in your financial opinion?
Yeah, I mean, something's going to happen out of this labor deal. I don't know what it is. I don't think, obviously, the players are going to say no cap. And listen, you're going to undermine all the good momentum that you have. So even if you lost regular season games, I can't see it going past losing maybe May, right? But let's say that they don't. I would think, or I would hope that there would be something around the system that they currently have in place. Now, how tight they get that stuff locked up at the top, or what additional surcharges you could put in place, right? So you could do some increased penalties for multiple years, and you could increase the penalties for those that go past a certain point, right? And those thresholds above that. The real issue in my mind has always been at the bottom. Could you do the luxury tax in reverse? Could you put a threshold at the bottom and say, okay, if you go past this point at the bottom, you're going to lose this much in revenue sharing. And if you do it in subsequent years, that's going to compound. And if you go past a certain point and you go deeply below that, you're going to get hit more. You could use draft picks. You could do all kinds of things. The problem with that is you cannot do a floor without something at the top. And so, again, I'm sure that the Players Association would be more than happy to see something at the bottom. But the owners, of course, are going to want to see some tightening at the top. So that, I think, is maybe the only way that you could see something. Is it going to still satisfy the issue at hand? I mean, even if you had a cap system, let's just say you put a floor at, I don't know, 110 million, which would be really, significant above what we've seen some of the clubs paying right now. Do you honestly think that, the Pirates, Marlins, Rays are going to go much above that point to begin with? Guys, the last time I checked, the team with the best record in the league last year was the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, granted, they weren't able to do much in the postseason, right? And that's where you start to get into a separate discussion. But there's still parity in terms of the performance of teams making it. And if the owners were to somehow seek to get additional teams in the postseason, and I don't know if people remember this, but they initially wanted 2 more teams in the postseason during this last round of labor negotiations that are in the deal that we have now. Then it makes it even easier for some of these clubs that have lower payrolls to reach it. Again, the Guardians, who are in a softer division. But I don't know if you get we're never going to see a system in which everybody has the same payroll. And if I look across the aisle at the NBA or the NFL, it's not like they're doing great in terms of parity. And there's discussions today going on. What's going on with the Cleveland Browns? When are they going to get it together? The game is designed differently in baseball. You don't have a quarterback and a receiver core, which are skill players that can be on the field all the time, or a point guard and a forward. You really have to have a really well-balanced roster. And I always go back to remembering the Texas Rangers when they spent and allocated all that money to Alex Rodriguez. What happened? They didn't have pitching. They weren't able to do anything and hung around the bottom of the standings. And so again, you just have to be well balanced.
Maury, don't forget, the Browns have Shador. He's a Pro Bowler, okay? So don't ever forget that he's a Pro Bowler ahead of Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen. There's a whole list of. Anyways, we don't have time to get into that whole thing. And Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. So everything is perfect in the NFL because it's been 15 straight years of the Chiefs and the Patriots, one of the two going to the AFC Championship game. The cap doesn't solve everything. And I'm just tired of hearing about it. Yes, you're not getting a cap without a floor. But is there any way, and you're way deeper in the economics than I am, is there any way that this gets settled without some sort of a work stoppage? Do you think the sides can get together and say, man, we have all this momentum? Because all you hear from everybody is baseball's healthy, it's growing, the revenues are up, TV watching is up, ticket sales are up, merch sales are up, everything is up. But then all of a sudden, we're not making enough as owners. So is there a way that they can figure this out, hopefully, before we get to the worst part, which is a work stoppage?
Yeah, I don't know, AJ. I mean, it's just, I won't see it's a guarantee, but it seems highly likely that we're at least going to get an off-season lockout. And last time this happened, when the lockout hit, we got 162 games in, but they had to compress the season and play a bunch of double headers. And I don't know if the owners sit on this thing with a cap, whether they're able to do that. Another way to deal with this, and this still has to go through and be negotiated with the players, is increased revenue sharing. And here we are talking about the Dodgers, or whether we're talking about the Yankees. They're kind of doing eventually something that might be a backdoor around that, which is, of course, the commissioner would love to sell the rights to all 30 clubs at their local media rights, right? Package all that together, sell it to somebody like ESPN or Apple or Amazon streamer. And that would, if you did that and did that's all centralized, I mean, that's the brilliance of what Pete Rozelle did with the NFL, which was, all the media rights are centralized, and that's how everybody's making solid money that way, all the way across the board. But I don't know. I just don't see how, again, irrespective if they were pushing for a cap. Last time we saw this, whether it was trying to redo the salary arbitration system and dealing with that, whether it was the players trying to get more money to the rank and file, and whether you have a pool of pre-arb players. Again, I think that we're going to come out of this largely the same, but there might be some big changes. Again, if you're going to make big changes, I don't see how that doesn't come with additional time. And I could see us all sitting on our hands on December 1st until maybe January. And again, that happened last time, where we're like, why aren't you guys doing anything? And they need that artificial deadline of spring training to really push things into gear. And that's when you start to get some real momentum.
Got it. By the way, that's Rob Manfred's dream, is to centralize all the MLB. But if I'm the Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, why would I want to, if I'm not making it? So anyway, that's a whole owner's fight. But I want to ask you this, since you're in tune of with this more than most people are. And you can maybe explain this because I have this fight with fans all the time. Every fan says, oh man, these players are getting paid so much, right? And they're so greedy. They get all this money. The players are happy with the money they get. Would they like to see some teams spend more? Absolutely. But for some reason, the fans don't say, well, if a cap system goes in for the owners, guess who makes more money? The owners make more money, but no one ever says the owners are greedy, right? Because they want a cap and they don't want to spend, like especially the lower owners. Why is that? Is it just a PR battle that the players are losing because people say, oh, why is Shohei Ohtani make $70 million a year for what he does? But I guarantee you, if you go and look at CEOs around the world, now keep in mind, the people that make over 30, 40 million in baseball is less than 50 people in the world. So you take the top 50 CEOs in the world and throw their numbers out there, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, whoever you want to throw out there, what are they making per year? No one complains about them.
Yeah, I think it's probably this idea that all of us probably played Little League and it's, a kid's game, and there's still this perception that for whatever strange reason that some, Joe Average could go get in the box and go do what you guys have done. I don't know, but I do know this. A key component of this discussion around a cap is that if you look at the franchise values that are occurring in the NFL and more specifically the NBA, they've been going up faster than franchise values for MLB. And that's a concern, right? And they believe that a large part of that is a cap system, because what are you doing? You really get into cost certainty. You really have a better idea of where things are at. That increases the value of your club for other people that want to get involved in it, and you're able to go ahead and increase your sales. So that, I think, is maybe the largest thing that is not being discussed, that franchise values would absolutely go up under a cap system. So who does that benefit? Of course, it benefits the owners. The other thing about the cap system that needs to probably be discussed is, it would be a percentage of baseball related revenue. So let's say it's 50%. Well, it's not like that number always goes up. And this is something, again, that's, I think, critical in the discussion right now. Rob's going to the players and saying, look, if you had done this thing in a cap system prior, this is how much money you left on the table by not going that way. Right now, we're watching and seeing with the revenue, or with the regional sports network bubble bursting, those revenues are going down. And so what happens when that happens, right? Of course, then the amount of money going to the players, whatever that figure is, would go down. Now, clubs would be forced to spend what that is, but what does that do? You're either artificially overspending for some players, or you're compressing the players at the top. And so I think maybe that's the thing that gets lost in this discussion, that and the idea that if there was a cap system, suddenly the Pirates are going to be running ramshot and be able to go ahead and compete all the time with the Dodgers. It's just not going to be like that, because again, we have a cap system in the NFL and the NBA, and we can see how parity works with those systems. It's, again, MLB has the best parity out of all of those.
Yeah, this is just a long time set up to accomplish a franchise value soaring. That is the main objective. There's no doubt about that. There are ramifications of that. Like you said, hey, if we put a penalty on not spending enough, guess what? All of those teams will spend enough in 5 seconds. And if not, they'll sell like the Twins would have for 1.5 billion, which is still 34x versus the 1.7 or 1.75 that they're suddenly looking for. So Maury, great info. And I want to tie it all back to the start of this conversation. If there is a problem, and clearly there is amongst other owners with the way that the Dodgers are spending, this does sound like an issue. Maybe it's not a massive issue and the number is a little bit too inflated on how much they're saving on the revenue sharing. And I know there's a legal component to this, but can't during the next CBA, they sit down and say, hey, you're clearly not bankrupt. We should get this level again, and let's figure out a little more revenue sharing. And the key that everyone says in our chat always is the revenue sharing not being tied to forcing player spending is absurd, right? Because you could just be spending it on real estate. Your spring training facility can get $100 million facelift, and then it just improves your real estate value. You didn't spend a dime on your team. You got to improve that part of your team, but that should not account for what other teams are giving up. So what are your thoughts on the way that the owners might decide to attack a team like the Dodgers for not sharing as much on their TV revenue?
Well, again, it's not like this is an unknown quantity. I mean, this has been going, this is, years, over a decade. So look, maybe, but I think the Dodgers would come back and go, look, we did this as it was done out of a court-appointed thing. Do we got to go back and revisit that thing? And, there's all the legal ramifications of it. Could they get an adjustment? Maybe. There was already an adjustment. Again, so could they revisit that? I suppose. But none of this should be a surprise to any of the other 29 owners. I mean, this has been around. I'm sure that they've sat around and said and stewed on this for a while. So could they revisit it? I maybe. I think that overall, just the general revenue sharing model might be revisited, and that may be something to look at again. And that I think is maybe the thing that I think maybe gets lost, is that it always seems to go and fall on the players, right? We need to go ahead and put a cap system in because the players are making too much, or we need to go ahead and be spreading that wealth around there. It would be easier, I imagine, to go to the Players Association and say, hey, we want to go ahead and clean up things on the ownership side with how revenue is being shared than trying to take a cap system in place. So it's always a battle between the owners and the players, and then the small market, mid market, and large market owners against each other. That's a tale as old as time.
Yeah, that's the battle, getting them to share more of the revenue when they don't feel like the teams that are getting that revenue sharing are actually spending it where they should. So I wish I could be inside those meetings. Those meetings are the real fun ones, when they come out and then say 30-0. We all agreed. Maury, this was great. Thank you so much for joining us. So much more info from Maury in his Forbes articles. Appreciate the time.
All right, guys, you take care. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, you too. Hey, Dodger territory, we'll have Andrew Freeman running the front office for the Dodgers on tomorrow's show. So make sure you tune in to that. And whether you like them or you hate them, they're very relevant and causing a lot of different news stories within the sport. So we've talked about them a lot today. I feel like we do a good job of spreading it out and talking about a number of different teams, but Dodgers have certainly been in the news lately. All right, so let's bring it back. Can we show this tweet? We did some homework while Maury was on. So I said, Manfred family member. It's a Morgan Sword family member. He works for the league. I think he is going to be the next commissioner in baseball. So the story, which was a legit one, an exclusive one, in the front office sports publication said, MLB teams fear the league will pick winners and losers in tech. This is what's going on right now. The league is taking control of choosing the tech partners rather than leaving it up to teams. One firm under consideration was founded by a top MLB executive's uncle. We mentioned this on a prior show. I mentioned this just the other day, and it was first reported by Enosaurus. But this is the uncle of Morgan Sword, who works for the league. That's where things get very dicey with conflict of interest. Hey, you're allowed to have an uncle that works in baseball. It just makes it a very tough look when all of the teams have to listen to someone who's a decision maker on this entire process, and there's a family member involved. So there we go. That's that story, right? That's a tough one. That whole situation going on right now, I've heard, is full of fire. And that's why someone like this guy Bradford, who writes for Front Office Sports, is getting information on it. Why are you putting a muzzle on me?
Because they don't want you to talk about it. Shh.
Come on and talk. I mean, you know what? We have so many other things we'd want to talk about, but always an open invitation to anybody that wants to chat with us. We are a neutral platform. Nobody owns us. Independent. Indie. We can say whatever we want.
There's been plenty of decisions in the history of Major League Baseball that the word integrity is at the top of their list. And when you start having companies coming in and saying, well, we're going to control this part of it, Major League Baseball is going to control this, you just got to be above board. That's it. Like you can't be silent about it, because there's people's livelihoods, which we discussed right before Maury came on, that go into this. And we're not even talking about like competition or anything like that. If we get to the competition part of Major League Baseball taking over the, having one scouting service that does the job for everybody, that's not helping teams. That's not helping the teams That's not helping the teams at the bottom who can spend a little bit of money on the human element of the scouting and everything and give themselves an advantage to find people. Now they're
This hurts.
centralizing.
This hurts
And
teams like the Rays, the Brewers, the Guardians, teams that have done more with less and outsmart teams. This hurts them. All right, what's next?
Every team needs that advantage. Every
What?
team wants an advantage. Every team wants something. Hey, we have this or we have that. Or we look at a certain analytic that other teams don't. Now, if we're centralizing it, it takes that away. And that was part of every sport. Every sport has this. Hey, we have this scout that really finds this. Why do you think general managers, some are successful, some aren't? Some coaches are successful, some aren't, because they see something and they're like, Phil Jackson, right? For all those years, had the triangle offense and nobody could stop.
Nope.
But it was because he had the right players and he put, you know what I'm saying? Like, but what if we say, oh, every team has to run the same offense and every team has to run the same defense and every team has to do the same scouting and every team has to look at the players the same way? That's not life. That's no other business. Why would we do that? Any other business?
Same bats, same batting gloves, same, just go down the line. Same sneakers exact in NBA because it's not fair. We want to control all of it. I don't know. It just, where's the line? To me, this one crossed the line, and you can see there are writers that have been covering this too. All right, what's next?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
I just got here, and I think that I gotta see around. I have to share time with my teammates, and think about different ideas. Learn about everybody, coaches, the organization in general, and then we can see.
That's Freddy Peralta, SNY, with that footage. That was his intro virtual presser, and they asked him about an extension, and he said TBD. Freddie's a happy-go-lucky guy. He's done the extension thing before. I think if he shows up to camp, has a good time, they could start to have some conversations. The other part of the Mets conversation that we learned this week was a good interview with Joel Sherman and John Heyman talking to Carlos Mendoza, manager of the Mets. Mendy was on our show the other day, and we talked about some of this stuff too. But Mendy believes the biggest issue with the Mets clubhouse last season was that they were too, quote, corporate and didn't celebrate each other enough. I'm going to start with Kratz here because, Kratz, you thought that they had too many gimmicks 2 years ago. I actually think they didn't have enough gimmicks this past season. A little fun, keep things loose, right? People don't all see the same thing. They're not all on the same page about anything in life, on the baseball field, right? I think it's fun to have some natural distractions. Maybe they were missing Jose Iglesias.
Grimace, Jose
Iglesias, the playoff pumpkin, they had a lot of gimmicks. And to say they're corporate, I've been on teams that have been too corporate, too much like that veteran. Hey, you know what? It's all about my routine. It's all about this. Some of the best teams you play on, you have some young dudes that are like, wow, he's going out right now. And then we're going out and we're playing a 1 o'clock game tomorrow. And he's hitting 2 dingers, like running around the outfield. Like there's a level of immaturity that is needed with maturity and gamerness, gamesmanship, whatever it is. It all comes down to winning and losing. Nobody would have said they were corporate had they just beaten the Reds out and made the playoffs by 1 game instead of missing it by 1 game. Like it's like were people saying this stuff during the season last year. And for Mendy to come out and say this, that's awesome. Mendy's got a good pulse on this type of thing. And I think if he can say, hey, guys, like loosen up a little bit. I get it. We're in the Big Apple. But loosen up. Like let's make sure we're there for the boys. Like no better view of how much the Mets in 2024 were there for each other when you see the rotation, all the rotation guys, somebody's starting and, they have the numbers painted on their face. Would some people say, like me, would some people say that's a gimmick? Yeah. But it's also a show of, hey, you know what? We're supporting our guys. We are here for everybody. Did you see that last year? No, because the Mets didn't make the playoffs. That's why you didn't see it. I'm sure they had stuff they were doing, But they were making this magical run in 24, and everybody's like, whoa, wow, they beat the Phillies. Oh, man, now look at them. They're drawing on their faces. So many stories. They stop doing stories when you don't make the playoffs. So I think part of it is that. But they clearly wanted to change it because they've done a lot of changing of this roster construction in an area that I didn't think they needed to change, was the offense.
Gimmicks have to be, skits have to be made organically, though. You can't force it, right? So you got to, they have to be organic in the clubhouse. They have to be organic in the dugout. You can't say going into a year, we're going to do this. Usually what happens, something happens either early in the year or in spring training that everybody gets on board with, and they say, that's going to be our skit, or someone makes a t-shirt, or someone does something dumb that's not offensive to anybody, and then the team rolls with it, and they stick with it. And you know what? If that doesn't work, then they go to something else. And if that thing doesn't work, they go to something else. And as soon as they find that thing, then they stick with it. And then the fans find out about it usually later after it's already been a thing for a while. And it happens. How many teams are you on, Kratz, where things happen? Fans, media never even found out about until later on. And it was a thing in the clubhouse forever. That was what was great. There was inside jokes and things. I remember I would be on a team, and Paul Konerko and Burley and some of the guys that had been around for the White Sox, we would say stuff in the paper and nobody understood, but we understood what we were kind of saying. It was a joke, and we would be like, oh, who can we get to actually report what we said and put this line in the paper, right? It was just stuff like that, but it wasn't offensive. It was nothing. We would just do it, and that's what makes a team great, and that's what makes guys have fun and get through 8 months together.
In 2015, when the Royals won the World Series, beginning of the year, if you did an interview, you had to say, because the one song that we would play was the 1738, hey, what's up, hello. That I don't even know what the name of the song is, but you had to say the number 17 and 38 in your interview. Like, is that a gimmick? Or is that just the boys spending 8 to 10 hours a day and then going to hotels and going on the road together and trying to accomplish a goal? That kind of stuff comes up. It comes up at the beginning of spring training. Somebody shows up with a brutal outfit. Somebody has a story. We're clowning somebody. Whatever it is, that's how you build that team together. And so if Mendy said they were too corporate, maybe they didn't spend enough time connecting, or maybe they just didn't win as many games as they thought they were going to. Or the team was split because the position players were like, great, it's the 4th inning and our starting pitcher's out again. We're winning 7-6. And now we're losing 9-6. Now we're losing 9-7. All right, we got to carry this team. And maybe that's what split the clubhouse and didn't allow Grimace or the next OMG or the next playoff pumpkin, all that stuff.
Trap Queen, Fetty Wap. Disagree. I think they should have had gimmicks. They had them 2 years ago, and they actually were terrible.
They probably did have them. We just didn't hear about them because they didn't win. They probably did have them. We just didn't know about them.
They didn't have them like they did in 24.
Well, no, that's because they were riding that
24.
emotion. Anyways, let's move on. That's because we got 2 more minutes. I gotta go.
Leo. Every team's mid-80s. This is the dream. And you say we don't have parity. BetMGM futures regular season win total. Detroit Tigers 84.5 over under.
Over.
Guys,
I'm taking over just because I'm going over.
Why?
You know why I'm taking over? Because they're going to keep Skubal, and the division hasn't gotten any better. So I think they go over.
The White Sox got better. The Twins got worse. The
Guardians didn't do anything.
Haven't done anything.
The Royals are
a little better.
Yeah, I mean, but the Tigers, they're going to say we got Kenley Jansen. I don't know. I mean, someone has to win this division with 88 wins, and I'm going to say the Tigers won't blow a 15-game lead this year.
Yep, they are preparing nicely for the regular season, Kratz.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see. I don't see them being a 500 team, and if you take the under, you have to be solidified that they're a 500 team. I think they took an absolute crater job in the second half and still won 87. So if you're running Tarek Skubal out there for all of his 32 starts, I have a tough time believing you're going to only win 84 games. So I'm taking the over for sure.
It's still hard for me to believe that they essentially did nothing this offseason and then they're not going to get anything for Skubal when he leaves. And this is their push your chips all in year. It's
They'll
tough.
get one more pitcher. They'll get one more starting pitcher.
Yeah, one more starter. Maybe Lucas Giolito signing soon to hang out with his buddy Jack Flaherty. I mean, there's plenty of good parts. I'm not saying I don't like the team. I think I talk for many in Detroit when I say that's it. All right. If you want a little more, an odds boost token for any sport could be yours on the BetMGM app. Score a bigger payout, apply that to your wager, and if that wager wins, you get extra winnings in unrestricted bonus dollars, depending on how much you're putting down. BetMGM.com or BetMGM app. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Mayday. Trevor May's show, Wednesdays, 3 o'clock, live. You get a lot of what we talk about with Trevor's spin on things. So stay here. Give it a look. What are you doing right now? Just keep doing what you're doing and give Trevor some love. I want to see that chat really go off. Let's get hundreds. Let's get 300, 400, 500 in there. Join me. I'll be there. Kratz Hatz?
Somebody said in the chat the other day after we were talking about the Nats, we never talk about the Nats. So there it is. Talked about the Nats.
Talked about him with the Mackenzie Gore deal and them saying no on the CJ Abrams offer from the Giants. And
don't do anything, we don't talk about them.
This is true. Adam Jude to talk Mariners tomorrow. Jake Mangum of the Pirates. Sorry, Jake. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And Kyle Higashioka on the guest list.
Friday. Isn't Hickey Friday?
No, I have him for tomorrow.
Thursday.